Deep in the heart of South America, there's a country that seems to defy any simple explanation. It's a land where the earth literally touches the sky, where history was written in silver, and where the future might just be powered by a mineral that's lighter than water. This is a story of incredible highs and sprawling lows, of ancient peoples and a truly modern state. This is Bolivia.
Yep, you guessed it. The answer to all of that is Bolivia. And these aren't just, fun facts for trivia night. They are the core paradoxes that really define this nation's identity. From the mind-bending beauty of the world's largest salt flat to the brutal riches of a colonial past and a modern political experiment in radical inclusion. Let's try and understand the forces that have shaped this absolutely extraordinary nation.
To even begin to understand Bolivia, you have to start with the land itself. This is a country forged in geological drama, a place of such profound physical contrast that they've shaped everything, from its economy to its culture. Okay, so this slide basically splits the country into two completely different worlds. On one hand, you've got the Altiplano in the west. This is a super high-altitude plateau tucked between two massive Andean mountain ranges. It's a stark, wind-swept place with a climate that can feel almost polar. And yet, this is where most of the people live. But then you travel east and you drop down into the Llanos, the tropical lowlands. Here, the air is thick, humid. It's the Amazon basin. It is a complete 180, not just in elevation and climate, but in the entire rhythm of life. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's over 21,000 feet. It's the staggering height of Nevado Sajama, Bolivia's highest peak. And this isn't just a mountain. It's a symbol of the sheer scale of the Andes. It's a vertical world that defines everything about life in the highlands, from the thin air people breathe to the very crops they can grow.
And inside that high-altitude world, you find this, the Salar de Uyuni. A blindingly white, massive expanse of salt. When it's covered by just a thin layer of water, it becomes a perfect, flawless mirror of the sky. It's one of the most surreal landscapes you could ever imagine. But hidden just beneath all that beauty is a massive strategic treasure, one of the world's largest deposits of lithium, the mineral that powers our phones, our laptops, our electric cars. It's such a perfect Bolivian paradox, this ancient, otherworldly landscape holding the key to our technological future.
So with a geography this dramatic, it's really no surprise that it has given rise to an incredible diversity of people. In a lot of ways, the story of Bolivia is the story of its many, many cultures, all striving to exist within a single state. Now, here's a term you don't hear every day: plurinational state. This isn't just some political jargon, it's a truly revolutionary idea. Back in 2009, Bolivia officially renamed itself the Plurinational State of Bolivia. And this was way more than just a name change. It was a formal declaration that the country isn't just one single uniform nation, but a community of many nations, giving equal status to the dozens of indigenous groups who've lived there for centuries. 37. This number perfectly shows what plurinational means in the real world. That's how many official languages are recognized by the Bolivian Constitution. So alongside Spanish, you have Quechua, the language of the Inca Empire, Aymara, which has been spoken in the Andes for thousands of years, Guarani from the lowlands, and dozens more. It's incredible. This chart here gives us a quick snapshot of that complex identity. You can see that about 2/3 identify as mestizo. That's a mix of Amerindian and European heritage. But Bolivia has the largest proportion of indigenous people in all of the Americas. And identity is complicated. In some surveys, well over 40% of the population says they belong to a specific indigenous group, like the Quechua or Aymara. It's a cultural tapestry woven from so many different threads. If you look at Bolivia's history, it's almost haunted by this one reoccurring theme: immense natural wealth, followed by a brutal fight over who gets to control it. It's a story of booms and busts, of riches that funded entire empires overseas, while often leaving very little for the country itself. Try to imagine a single mountain. They called it Cerro Rico, the rich hill, so packed with silver that it fueled the entire Spanish Empire for centuries. The city of Potosi became bigger than London or Paris at the time, a symbol of wealth you can barely comprehend. But all that wealth was dug out of the ground through a brutal system of forced labor that cost millions of indigenous lives. The silver flowed out, leaving a legacy of both unimaginable riches and incredibly deep exploitation. And this pattern, this reliance on a single resource, has really defined Bolivia's economy for 500 years. After the silver was gone, tin took over in the 20th century, creating a new class of powerful tin barons. And now, today, all eyes are on lithium, the white gold of our digital age. Each era brought wealth, for sure, but it also brought this extreme vulnerability to the whims of the global market and foreign control. And it's not just minerals. In the last few decades, natural gas has become a huge piece of the economic puzzle. These reserves have generated a ton of revenue, helping to fund social programs and drive growth. But, just like with silver and tin before it, the question of who really benefits from this wealth has been the source of some really intense political conflict. So when you have this long history of fighting over resources, what does that do to a country's politics? Well, unsurprisingly, it's contributed to a deeply turbulent past. The struggle to build a stable and inclusive nation has been a very long and often very violent one. When the Republic was first founded, the feeling was one of pure optimism. The country was even named in honor of the great liberator, Simón Bolívar. This quote really captures that hope, this idea of building a brand new nation, a Bolivia, from the vision of its founder. But the path from that hopeful start would prove to be incredibly difficult. This is just a staggering fact, and it points to a really deep national trauma. Through a series of wars and treaties, Bolivia's borders just kept shrinking. The most devastating loss was the War of the Pacific in the late 1800s, when it lost its entire coastline to Chile, which turned it into the landlocked nation it is today. That loss is still a central issue in its foreign policy and its national psyche. The 20th century was just a political roller coaster. You had the 1952 National Revolution, which was a huge deal. It brought in universal voting rights and land reform. But then that was followed by almost 2 decades of constant instability and military dictatorships. It actually wasn't until 1982 that stable democratic rule returned, and that's what paved the way for the profound social changes that led to that landmark 2009 constitution we talked about. So, where does all of this leave Bolivia today? Well, it is still a nation defined by its incredible contrasts, a place where the past is always right there with you, and the future feels like a constant negotiation between all these competing forces. In the end, this is the essence of Bolivia. It's a geographic duality, from the Andean peaks to the Amazonian depths, a cultural duality, mixing ancient indigenous traditions with the lasting legacy of Spanish colonialism, an economic duality, caught between a history of exploitation and the massive potential of its future resources like lithium, and a political duality, moving from centuries of turmoil towards this radical new vision of a truly plural nation. The challenge for Bolivia, it seems, has always been to try and reconcile these extremes, to bridge the divides between its regions, its peoples, and its past and its future. The quest for that balance, that right there is the defining story of this captivating and deeply complex country.